Hi. I'd like to talk about what happens when you issue a bug bounty on your head, our experiences from launching a public bug bounty program. We have several points to go across today. In the first part of the presentation, I'd like to set the stage. What is it, what does it look like, and how it behaves. In the second part, I'll go through some recommendations and what you can do, how can you prepare for such an event, and how to best withstand the surge that will inevitably happen. And no presentation is good enough without a call to action, so that's at the end of the presentation. Shortly about me, my name is Miloslav Homer. I'm a senior application security engineer in Kiwi.com. I was overseeing our transition from the private bug bounty program to a public one. During this presentation, you will see various reports and findings that we received through our public bug bounty program. I've dealt with all of them. These are heavily edited to illustrate the points, so there is usually more, but they are shortened, so they are better able to fit on the TV. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I also have some crappy personal webpage.
Could you speak a little bit louder?
Louder for the folks in the back. Okay, I'll try. So, setting the stage, what is a bug bounty program or a bug bounty engagement? Bug bounty, the deal is basically a contract between your organization and independent researchers, and it states that they will provide vulnerabilities and reports, and you will provide them with money if the vulnerabilities or reports are valid for you. Simple as that. They bring bugs, you bring cash. There are some things to set up though, because this deal has terms and conditions, usually called the program policy. It has several parts, such as the scope, or what can the researchers find and deal with. The rules of engagements, what activities are available to them and what activities are forbidden. Rewards table, that's very interesting for the hackers. How much are you paying for the vulnerabilities? This is usually sorted based on the severity. More severe findings yield you a bigger bounty for your efforts. And my personal favorite, a safe harbor declaration, which states that you, as an organization, will not legally prosecute the poor researchers who in good faith tried to find the vulnerabilities on your site. This is not as common as you would like. Even today, you can still find organizations that will threaten legal action if you continue to do what you are doing, even though you are absolutely legitimate and you are trying to help them uncover their vulnerabilities and problems. You don't have to do this alone. You can use one of the several platforms that provide managed bug bounty services. We, as Kiwi.com, are using HackerOne, but there are several other platforms such as Backroute, Integrity, or if you'd like to try a Slovak-made solution, I can recommend HackTrophy. I won't be comparing these platforms because this talk is really platform agnostic. So a basic question is, why would you do this? It's not a bad question. The most basic motivation is you would like to discover vulnerabilities that malicious attackers will be exploiting or actually are exploiting right now. Sometimes you just never know. And this is an example report, and the resolution is bad. Never mind. What you can probably see here, the example report has several important parts, such as summary, briefly summarizing the issue. In this case, is a reflected cross-site scripting on one of our URLs. Do not accept vulnerabilities without a proof of concept or some kind of steps to reproduce. In this simple case, it's really enough to provide a link. This link, in case of cross-site scripting, would really usually pop up some kind of alert window with XSS or cookies if they are misconfigured. So you are able to verify that the vulnerability is actually valid. And then some words about impact and some other notes. But really, this is the most basic report that you will be receiving, and it can look like this. What I also was really surprised, how fast these researchers are working sometimes. In this report...
I'm sorry, I will pause it for a little bit. I asked for a microphone from the local link.
Okay.
provider because I believe it's going to be much better for everyone.
Okay.
Sorry, Miro. So we will just pause it for
Just wait for a moment. No problem.
a period of time.
Sorry, jsem se šel zeptat, co máš ten pole, když to není slyšet.
Je to ještě stále trochu punk.
Tak, tady je mikrofon pro vás, a
Děkuji.
vám ještě zapojím.
Bude to lepší, jo?
Jo, určitě.
Určitě, akorát tady potřebuju. A kdyby vám ten webkák přímo na vás zezadu, stačí říct, nebo stačí tady vzít nějakou židličku, nebo na stůl,
Na druhou stranu toho...
klidně, může. Ono tam je zabíječka, ale je nabitej plně, takže to vydrží. Tak, tady.
To bude lepšie aj kvôli feedbacku.
Určitě.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Not yet.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Ono ještě bude zapojené.
Počkaj.
Já doufám, že je nabité.
Svieti. Zapal som ho a svieti.
Pecka.
Takže asi
Je
dobré.
to OK. A potom potřebuji takový oranžový káblik, který bude tady za váma. Jo, tady.
Vypneme, pretože tieto kontakty bývajú veľká sranda. To už som toľko mikrofónov držal v ruke.
Chceš to prodat od začátku, nebo...
Proč? Kvôli nahrávaniu?
No, že to bude konstantní. To byly 2 minuty, ne? 3 minuty.
Tak 10?
Ne, chvíli jsme mluvili my, to nebylo tak dlouhý.
No to asi ne. Je fakt, že na pol sme sa tak nejak pozbierali, teraz je 3/4.
No, přišlo, bude to lepší.
Hej, tak im to povedz ty, že to chceš kvôli recordingu.
Je to teda...
Je to vypnuté teraz. Kým to zapojí, až to zapojí, tak sa to dá zapnúť týmto smerom hore. Keď by som mal lepšie hlasivky.
Jsem to moc daleko. Posun to 2 metry blíž, no.
No to potrebuje natiahnuť. No, pri trocha šťastia to nezráme. Dobre.
Komplexní na to, proč se
Zkusím teď. Jo, už to je. Když jak vzadu na repráku jsou basy, hlasitost a tak, a si už pohrajete sami.
Jo, jenom
Podle svého hlasu. Jo, když tak ten mikrofon trošku od repráku. Když půjdete dál od toho repráku, tak bude lepší.
Co se týká těch reportů, tak je to
So for a huge access, we'll start from the beginning. Wow.
Okay, so welcome back. Because of the recording. Okay? Everything is good? Everybody in the back hears me clearly? Fantastic. Thank you for the technical intervention and sorry about the technical difficulties. Hi! I'll be talking today about what happens when you issue a bounty on your head and our experience of launching a public bug bounty program. This presentation is separated into 3 sections. In the first section, I will set the stage, what's this about, how is it working, and so on. In the second part of the presentation, I'll talk about what can you do to ensure that things go on smoothly. And also, at the end of the presentation, I will issue a call to action, so we end on a somewhat positive note. Hi, about me. My name is Miloslav Homer. I'm a security applications engineer in the Kiwi.com company. I was overseeing the transition from a private bug bounty program to a public one. During this presentation, we will see several excerpts from the report that we received in our bug bounty program. All of them were handled by me. These are heavily edited, so they are able to fit on the screen, but they are there to illustrate the point. So most of the time, there will be quite a lot more information in those reports. So what is bug bounty? Briefly, it's a contract between your company and independent researchers. They provide vulnerabilities, bugs, and issues, and if they are valid, then you are paying them with money for their efforts. Pretty much that's that. This contract has conditions, usually called the program policy. The policy has several sections that are present nearly in all of them, such as scope, which denotes what the researchers can try to hack and what is off limits. Rules of engagement, what activities are they allowed to do and what activities are prohibited. The rewards table, basically how high of an amount you can pay them for their findings, very interesting for the researchers. And my favorite, the safe harbor declaration, because in here you promise the researchers that you won't initiate a legal action against them based on the activities they have done in good faith to uncover issues in your assets. It's not as common as you might think. There are still organizations and companies that will threaten you with legal actions if you in good faith try to show them an issue that you have found and really just trying to help them out, but they will still retaliate, and trust me, you do not want a legal team behind you. You don't need to do this alone. There are several platforms that can help you with this effort, such as HackerOne, which we are using in Kiwi.com. But there are others such as Background or Integrity or Hacktrophy if you would like to use a Slovak-made solution. So why would you do this? The most basic motivation is to discover vulnerabilities that a malicious attacker would exploit or are already exploiting. You never know usually. And this is an example report that you can see and you will receive. There are several parts to a good report. Usually they start with a summary, what's happening, what's going on. In this case, it's a cross-site scripting issue on one of our URLs. All good reports have proof of concepts that enable you to verify that the issue is actually there. In this case, a simple link that would pop up a JavaScript window will be enough. And that's what the researcher provides. And some other notes as well. This is really a run-of-the-mill standard report that you will see. I was pleasantly surprised how fast these researchers are able to work sometimes. In these reports, the researcher have found a file containing the credentials of an SFTP service. The funny story about this is that it was caught in the middle of a migration between two states, and the credentials were online for like 15 minutes before we received this report. So yeah, the internet is always watching. Another benefit of the bug bounty program is you will get a specialized knowledge that will be otherwise hard to obtain, because the attackers are able to dig as deep as they would like, not restricted by methodologies, not restricted by time constraints. If they do specialize in some niche topic, they are able to use this specialized knowledge to yield very high bounties, because other folks do not specialize in these niche topics. For an example, a report has arrived about command injection in GitHub workflows actions that enables the attacker to perform a pull request that do not need to be merged for the code to be executed. And the payload is a doozy. I don't know about you, but I personally am not checking for these things on my day-to-day basis. Yeah, I'll give you a moment to just look at all of the backslashes and ifs and stuff like that. So this was one of the high severity vulnerabilities that we accepted this year. And also not to forget the bragging rights. With public bug bounty program, you are declaring to your customers, to your partners, to your investors, that you do take security seriously and you are ready for anything that the attackers will throw at you. It's no small thing for you to declare, and you are really putting the money where your mouth is with such a move. Throughout your bug bounty journey, you will be dealing with hackers. Hackers, or researchers as they like to call themselves, are creative individuals that are usually questioning authorities and pushing boundaries. I mean, that's really the definition of a hacker from my point of view. So these have downsides as well, because some hackers have nothing to lose. They exist in remote locations. Even if you would like to initiate a legal action against them, you are just not able to find them. You might not be able to get the authorities to cooperate. They are pretty shameless because they are not really punished for bad reports, but they are rewarded for good ones. So they will report anything they think can yield some money, and this ends in a lot of trash reports. They are also heavy users of automation. It's not uncommon for a researcher to take everything in their grandma and throw it at your website. So you will be dealing with a lot more traffic on your services more on that later. And if there's one thing that I'd like to remember from this talk, is that hackers will break the program policy. The program policy is still pretty much the only tool you have to restrict them, and most of the time they will obey it. But be prepared that the program policy will be broken, so don't expect clean behavior from these individuals, so to speak. As a case study in breaking policy, nearly any public bug bounty program that is there have a clause that protects against the denial of service or distributed denial of service, because it adds little value and it causes a lot of damage to production deployments. And here you can see that the researcher found a vulnerability that can result in denial of service, but because it requires actual testing, he brought down the site for 4 to 5 seconds. Yeah, he did apologize, and that was nice. And to be fair, in this particular asset, 4 to 5 seconds is not a big deal, but it's still unpleasant, right? It's not something that you would like to encounter. Also, automated vulnerability scanners. I'll give you 10 seconds and try to identify which tool is this report coming from. Who's got it? Raise your hand. You're not supposed to read it, just look at the format, really. No, it's not an SQL map. Any other guesses? Yes, it is Bruce. Basically, I suspect that the attacker bought or got the professional license which has the built-in scanner, and then just automated the workflow from executing the scanner through the API calls required to post this report into our inbox. And also, don't forget that you are dealing with people, so sometimes feelings get hurt and you will be facing plain ugliness. These situations are not pleasant, and I'd recommend considering some kind of ops protection processes, such as not really disclosing your telephone number, not really disclosing your email address, just in case. They don't actually need it, so why would you, right? But still, I'm here making this talk with my name and my face on it, so I hope I'm not making a big mistake. Okay, so what can you actually do to prepare? And the single most important thing you should address is the policy. I know there are more interesting things to talk about rather than writing policies, but please bear with me for a while. You don't have to do all of this yourself. There are many public bug bounty programs with public bug bounty policies, so you can read a lot of those policies when drafting a policy of your own. Ours is at hackerone.com/kidicom, and really try to understand the purposes of each part there, try to incorporate them. As I was saying, nearly every policy has some kind of denial of service clause. You also don't need to get it right on your first try. You can and should update the policy over time. But a word of caution here. Sometimes you will encounter a report that will prompt you to update your policy because it's an issue that you didn't thought of when writing it, and it's really affecting you bad. So I'd recommend to accept that finding with an old policy, and then change the policy, and then throw away any other findings that would violate the new policy. I think that's a fair approach. And it's not just morally wrong to write every time somebody with vulnerability comes to you, you just write in the policy like, no, I don't want that. One of the most important things you will be addressing in your policy is the scope. I would recommend to set the scope to nearly everything you own with wildcards, so the attackers are able to do their own discoveries, and then making exceptions for known assets that you know you are not interested in. I'd recommend excluding things you have minimal or no control over. These are usually some kind of third-party sites, software as a service, and many other such issues. Really, the idea is to ask yourself the question, if there was an issue found in this asset, would we as an organization be actually able to address it? Is there anything that we are able to do? If the answer is no, then you are probably not really interested in paying bounties for such problems, even though you are interested in hearing these issues. It's a tricky question. As an example of a scope miss, in this report the researcher has found some issues in some public GitHub repositories. You can see here that they do mention keying in some way, but these are not ours, right? So a lot of the platforms have some ways and mechanisms to punish researchers for bad reports, invalid reports, and so on. I'd recommend not using those mechanisms here. I mean, the researcher just missed. If this was a forgotten asset of yours, you will be grateful. So close the report with informative severity and move on. As I was mentioning, there are some third-party issues. And here we have an example of a supply chain attack. One of our applications has a dependency. That dependency has a maintainer. That maintainer has an email on his own domain, and that domain expired. So if an attacker would register the domain, set up an email server, he could reset the password for the package manager, take over the package, publish a new version, and once you update your version in your tools, sometimes the developers do that automatically, then you will be running code that was crafted by the attacker. It's something that you have little control over. because you need to use dependencies. You can write everything on your own. But it's really unpleasant. In this case, I contacted the maintainer of the package, and he was kind enough to change this email address to one that he has complete control over, so the issue was resolved. The sad thing is that although you are not able to do anything about it, you are still responsible for your assets. So you'd better address this in one way or another.
Maybe question. If
Yep.
I can.
Yep.
You implemented some packages caching or something like that?
We do have that for Python packages, not for JavaScript packages, and also we are trying to pin the versions so the automatic updates do not happen. But yeah. Okay, further conclusions from the rules of engagement side. Beware of 0 days in third-party managed applications and servers. As mentioned, there are little you can do here. Give yourself some time to patch. It's really unfair to expect you to have the fix rolled in 2 minutes, and trust me, it lasts 2 minutes to get you a report for a new Confluence denial of service or remote code execution vulnerability. So give yourself some time to patch, and in the same way of you are responsible for the asset. If you are not patching critical issues fast enough, then yes, you should pay the bounty to the researcher that has found the issue. I recommend excluding former employees from participating. I see some of them sitting there. Hi. Not only these folks do know the assets of your company really well. In case of bad breakups, there can be some bad blood, and it's quite easy for an experienced and malicious developer to include some kind of backdoor and get some kind of last payout from your company, and you don't want to incentivize that. Also, another thing to consider, especially if you are running some kind of free tier of something, is random public credentials. In the case of free tiers, imagine that some folks are tinkering around your free tier, publishing some random code to GitHub, and then just forgetting about it. And they are sloppy, so they hardcode their credentials to the repository. You will get these reports. Yes, the attacker got credentials to your services, but it's not really a fault of yours. It's a failed ops from the customer of yours, and it is my opinion that you shouldn't be paying for this. This doesn't include only these free tiers, also normal users that do get compromised and their credentials get leaked from another sources, not your organization. That's also something, in my opinion, that should be excluded, because you are not responsible for each and every API, right? And also, there are some very dramatic bugs that are of informative severity to you, and I believe it's best shown in an example. In this case, there's a public Firebase access, and it sounds horrific, right? It's a database and it's public, critical finding. But we know that in the company we are using it to store configuration for our Android apps. The other option that we would have is to hardcode that configuration in the particular version of the app. So it's still kind of public, you only need minimal effort to get it. So it's not secret or anything, so this is a terrible, terrible sounding finding that's actually completely okay in our context. And as I was mentioning the Confluence 0 days, it does happen. So you may recall this CVE 2023-22518, which is some kind of Confluence takeover vulnerability. It's about creating a new admin account because you can reset the Confluence installation or something. And you can see the clause here in play. We knew about this vulnerability when it was published. So we started fixing as soon as possible, and we were able to comply with our own policy. As you can see, 8 days ago it was reported, a day ago it was already fixed. So unfortunately, this effort is ineligible for bounty because we were fast enough. Okay. The day that you launch your public bug bounty program, expect a surge of new reports. So prepare yourself for this surge and allocate time of anybody involved. If you are running on a platform, consider paying for the triage service. It's a team of professionals from the platform that will inspect the reports as a first wave and only pass through to you the reports that are more suspicious. Allocate time of your security professionals. It's a lot of work. I'll show that in a moment how big the slide was. Allocate budget for the bounties. These reports that you will receive will need to be paid. So get prepared to pay a lot of money in the beginnings of your program. And also expect many false positives. As mentioned, the triage service will greatly help with those because they will filter out the most egregious examples. Also, do not forget about the development teams, because you need to have some kind of agreement with them on when and how fast they should fix the vulnerabilities that you are reporting to them, because that's what this is about, right? You want to fix those vulnerabilities, not only find them. This should be aligned with your bug bounty policy. If you in the policy claim that you will be responding this fast and triaging this fast, then you should have the support from within to do that. And also don't forget about the communication. Prepare channels, prepare ways to communicate, to reach the teams, to reach the responsible persons, communicate with the manager of the teams, try to allocate some times of the devs of the most public parts of your company, such as the public-facing website, and give heads up to anybody involved, be that developers, managers, or operation teams. The more folks know about this maneuver, the better for you. Here you can see how it went. Basically, before the public launch, you can probably see that those are weeks. And in the first week of the public launch, we received 122 reports. I think 8 of them were valid and eligible for bounty. And the number was steadily dropping, but still it was higher than the private part of our program. So yeah, it was a lot of work to do with this. Also in this graph you can see the budget constraints. In the gray there's the average experience of a bug bounty release, and in the pink is our experience. I will claim that this is a testament to our skill and ability because we paid so little bounties. And as I was mentioning, you will receive a flurry of informative spam vulnerabilities. These all reports are talking about the same issue, and that's the public XML rpc.php WordPress file. All of them are invalid.
And how did you decide who to pay the vulnerability? The first one?
All of them were invalid. We did not pay any of them.
Oh, they were invalid.
But yes, if one of them was valid, we will pay the first one, mark the rest of them as duplicates, and it's an unfortunate fact that we were able to do that in bug bounty. It's not really friendly for the researchers, because they are usually not cooperating, but really those are the rules of the game. It goes without saying, but you should, before the public launch, fix what you can. Try to check the attack surface, try to get the lowest of the low-hanging fruits, and pick it up before the attackers are able to. You may save some cash on the bounties this way. And I also recommend monitoring common high-impact issues. If you are running some kind of cloud, I would recommend monitoring your DNS records and IP addresses for subdomain takeover issues, because those are really costly and really easy to miss. One of the tools that was most helpful in our journey was rate limiting on the firewall, because you really should be expecting a lot of automated requests. A lot of automated requests. There's a lot of traffic that you need to be dealt with. It will be malicious traffic, it will be ugly and bad. Rate limits will help to reduce the load and protect your services. This is especially true if you do have auto-scaling enabled. You can actually save the money with this approach. And here's the traffic that we've been dealing with. It's a complete overview of the request in some time period, I believe 2 weeks. And you can see that out of 17 million requests, 12 million of them were blocked based on rate limits. we were normally functioning in the meantime, so all of the traffic was no issues, no drop, no incident. Also, one thing that was very useful for us was blocking the most common security tools based on the user agent, because usually the researchers are lazy and do not configure their tools properly. Your mileage malware, as I was saying, it was very useful for us. Here are some examples that we picked, such as GoBuster, Limbuster, Nuclei, Fastmaster, UFO, and so on and so on. Making the leap and call to action. Don't fall into the perfection trap. There will be always more stuff to fix, more stuff to harden, more ways to prepare yourself for such an undertaking. It will never be perfect, you will never actually feel ready. I'd recommend setting yourself a deadline, trying to do what you can, and then reap the benefits of a public bug bounty program where the researchers will find the issues for you. And that's really it from me today. Thank you so much for your attention. It was lovely presenting here. You can find me on LinkedIn, and if you have any questions, I'm here.
Would you recommend running the bug bounty program? Because there are many disadvantages, like having higher traffic, as you mentioned, having a lot of pointless reports, and at the end you can have just some reflective profile scripting report.
Yeah, I would still recommend it because it enables the folks to report the vulnerabilities to you. It's a well-known channel how they can reach you if they stumble upon something that they find interesting.
And what were the most severe findings that were those you presented, or?
There were some other high-severity vulnerabilities I haven't presented, but the one with the GitHub Actions takeover was at the top of the list, yes.
And can you tell like the ratio between the really high-severity findings and those really pointless?
Yeah, there were a lot of pointless. I mean, like,
It was
one from 1,000 was a high severity, one from 100 was a low severity. The rest of them were invalid.
Maybe would you find these reported vulnerabilities by yourself?
Some of them I would. As I was mentioning that GitHub Actions, I was just like, what is this? And it's really about the time and the focus you have, because as a security professional you have many different things to tend to, and you don't have the time to focus on the attack surface wholly. So surprisingly, no, because I wouldn't be able to focus enough on these attack surfaces and vectors.
Yeah, that's actually answer for the person, yeah, because
As
more
well.
eyes, more see, so yeah.
What about people that are not motivated by money? Do you have a hall of fame or something like that?
Yeah, actually we don't. But we probably should, but from our experience, people are usually motivated by money. We should do that, yes. Thank you.
Were you happy about the HackerOne triaging team?
I was very happy about the HackerOne triaging team. They were able to deal with the reports swiftly and accurately. I don't recall an instance where they will discard a valid report. So that's a great rate right there, and they will discard the invalid reports left and right. So it was tremendously helpful for an understaffed team when dealing with this search.
May I ask how much money it cost you for the providing the services from the HackerOne? But because I guess it was paid to hackers, but also for providing the service.
Yes, I do not have the numbers in mind. I don't remember. There is a fee to the program. I really don't know from the top of my head.
How many people from your team was working on triaging the tickets coming from HackerOne?
All of them. That was me. Army of one, yes.
Did you make some research to select HackerOne, or was that like first try?
Historical reasons. We were running the private bug bounty program with them from quite some time, and even though we did slight research and checks about the other providers, they still came ahead due to simplicity and the really reasonable fees they did have. it wasn't that much cheaper to justify the cost of really switching and transferring all of it. Okay, if that's it, it was all.
Did you see the benefit from switching from the private program to the public one? Like, is there the ratio, does it change, or is it the same?
That's a tricky question because it's really hard to evaluate. We did find some interesting bugs during our public part of the program. We also found some really nice bugs during the private part of the program. So I'm not really able to evaluate that.
So, but you were running the private program on a HackerOne platform?
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. If you have further questions, I'll be around for the duration of the evening, so just hit me up. Thanks.